If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
The blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
The blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
America.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. Coming at you this week, one and only Chris Knowles from the Secret Sunblog. You guys all know who he is. I'm sure if you don't, prepare to be blown away. And you might want to even go back because we've had Chris on the show at least once or twice before, and on our other show, Grimerica Outlawed, as well. I know it had been a while. I was surprised at how long it had been since he's been on this show. There's probably a bunch of listeners listening that haven't heard the last show with Chris. It's definitely one worth going back, taking a listen to. And we got everybody's favorite podcaster, Graham. I get rattled on X Dunlop.
I knew you were going to say something about that.
Knew it. He knew.
Yeah, well, that seems to be the battleground right now, but I don't really like getting into it, but I don't know. Some things I just need to pipe up sometimes on stuff. But I mean, honestly, the shows that are on there, you're not really going to make a dent. I mean, you might, there might be some, I don't know, some comments and stuff, but it's just so full of shills too. I mean, speaking of X, Chris Knowles is on X a lot. He's got quite a presence there.
I just do it for the likes
out there.
A lot of times I just dump in, dude. I'll drop in my 2 cents
and then leave.
Mute the conversation.
Yeah.
So I don't even get the notifications, and then I'll go back and check on my dumpster fire because I'm, as usual, always picking on the Canadian politicians. So
yeah,
and it's mostly bots. So it's like I'm not, I don't want to fight with the bots.
Yeah, exactly. So Chris, it's interesting because he kind of pushes back on me on this episode. Like I try to push my theories about the destruction of the hero's journey and about Hollywood not caring about money and revenue and pushing their message. Like he's pretty much dead set against me on all that. So it's kind of a fun little bit of arguing back and forth in a way. Like he's definitely disagreeing with me, which is good.
It's always good to disagree with Gramectomy.
Yeah. So did you hear about the eclipse before the eclipse?
What did I hear about?
What's going on?
No, what's
I have
going
like a science article.
Is it a comment?
Yeah, the comment. This is from Universe Today. I mean, if people, I don't know if space isn't fake and gay. I mean, the comet versus the eclipse. 12P/Pons Brooks heads towards perihelion in April. So I guess 12P is the 12th periodic comet in the catalog. So we're talking about comet 12P Pons Brooks, set to reach the first of two perihelia for the 21st century this spring. And the timing couldn't be better, as the comet will also sit near the sun just 2 weeks prior during the total solar eclipse of April 8th, 2024, spanning the North American continent from the southwest to the northwest. If the comet overperforms, a long shot, but multiple outbursts in 2023 suggest it just might, we could be in for the added treat of a naked eye comet near the sun during totality. Wow.
Oh yeah,
Imagine
because
that.
it's there.
Dude, during totality, you get to see with the naked eye this Pons. What's it? Pons Brooks.
Are
Pons
you gonna
Brooks.
fly down for that?
I don't know.
It's a fucking
right. The comet is at magnitude 0.75 with a bullet, well within range of binoculars. The comet will reach perihelion on April 21st. So here's they've got these sketches. Oh, there's the bullet sketch. Mm-hmm. On a 71-year orbit, just a tad shorter than Halley's, it can reach the 5th magnitude on a favorable apparition. The name for the comet comes from, oh yeah, we know that. what comet outbursts mean for 2024.
Outbursts?
It's, oh my God. So it has a nucleus of 30 kilometers across.
Ooh.
For context, Hale Bopp had a nucleus of 40 to 80 kilometers across. So
That's the one everyone killed themselves for?
I think so, yeah.
Was Hale-Bopp the... You know what I didn't know? Did you know those motherfuckers killed a bunch of those people?
What? I don't know.
Like there was like a third of the people that like, I don't know, chickened out or whatever. Decided they didn't want to drink the Kool-Aid.
With their purple shoes or whatever. With the high
how it
top.
happened. I'm talking about the one where everybody fucking drank the Kool-Aid, right? Well,
And then
out
some didn't want to, and then they're like, "No way, you're not getting out of here alive," kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like,
it turns out, well, the biggest problem was people who didn't want to poison their kids. They were like, "Oof, I don't want to kill my kids." So, and then this was causing problems. So they would just either they had already thought about that, I guess, and they had needles filled with poison. So they started just injecting people, and yeah, even I guess just stabbing them and shooting them in some cases.
wow, that's crazy.
But it was like a third. So, unless I'm wrong, but that's what I read. It could be bullshit. It could be fake news. In the age of information, we don't know what's real.
Yeah. So it's April 6th to 9th is our eclipse at the Canyon in Utopia, Texas, 2024, of course. So, I mean, wouldn't it be cool if we see this comment here too? So we're doing like a little festival. Everybody should come. There's
Everybody
still
should come. It's going to be the Eclipse Festival of a lifetime, for sure.
There's a link in the show notes also from our website. You can get there, or Contact at the Canyon as well. Contactatthecanyon.com.
Contact at the cabin mostly.
There's contactatthecabin.com. But yeah, there's music, guest speakers like Dave Matheson, Ben from Uncharted X, Russ Allen, Kyle Allen, Luke Caverns will be there.
We're having Luke on the show next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we'll pipe that up then. But you guys should come hang out with us. I mean, there's going to be a time you won't get stuck in the traffic, and you get to hang out with some real cool people. So I heard they have extra body bags, but that won't be any of our people. So that's what, if you go to one of these other events, you could end up in one of those extra body bags they bought for the Eclipse event. So that's why you want to come to ours. We'll be safe. We'll be fun. We'll be happy. Contact at thecabin.com. I have, do you have any make goods?
Why would I have a make good? From what?
Or like the people who have been supporting the show for a while that said they want to show up.
Oh, those make goods. Well, that's not a make good, really.
We didn't have any one-time donations.
No, we didn't have any donations last week. So, but maybe, I mean, it gives us a
down.
We are highlighting people that donate. So we'll read your name and a little note if you want. Send it to graham@grahamerica.com. But yeah, I don't think we got any last week.
No, that's okay. Maybe nobody's listening.
Maybe.
There's always that. But it seems like some people are listening. So if you are listening and you're getting some value from our podcast here, head over to gramerica.ca/support today. Sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation. Of course, the other exciting news is the audiobooks, which we do. You guys are probably sick of hearing about the audiobooks. There's the audio podcast, Adult Brain Audiobooks. There's Adult Brain Audiobooks.
What is it? Say it slower.
Adult. Oh, yeah. Because
Adult Brain. Adult. ADULT.
Like not a baby.
Yeah.
ADULT, a full-grown human being, adult brain, BRAIN.
Not addled. It's not addled brain.
Idle brain. We've got a few. So addled, like what's that drug people take? Adamant.
Adamant.
Is that what addled is? Adamant. No. Anyway, there's Adult Brain Audiobooks, the podcast. And now, of course, we have the Adult Brain free audiobook YouTube channel, which is now the place where you can slowly start to get all of our audiobooks for free. Of course, there will have some ads with them. That's the catch with them being on the YouTube model. But they'll be there, and you guys can get them for free. So it's a chance for people to get them who maybe can't afford those audiobooks all the time or don't want to do the podcast thing. That option is there if you want to share them with people. Hey, you guys, if you could just go there and give us a like or a subscribe or whatever that YouTube thing is. This is our first chance of having a real YouTube channel that hopefully doesn't get, it's not really censorable. We're not doing anything controversial. And we think we could maybe do well with it. So if you guys could go share that with anyone who likes audiobooks, you're not even asking them to buy anything now. You just got to get it to them so that they can see if there's any books they like. So go to YouTube, Adult Brain Audiobooks, and give us a subscribe. That'll be in the show notes, of course. But give us a subscribe. Tell your friends. And yeah, big news. Support the show, though, guys. Come on. Gramerica.ca/support if you want to get mentioned, like Graham said. But, liking and sharing those podcasts and the Gramerica Outlawed podcast and the Adult Brain YouTube channel and all that stuff is just another way to help Gramerica out. So if you're doing one of those things, we would love you for it. Of course, you can also get Gramerica Outlawed on Patreon officially now. We got, I think, 35 episodes, slowly chipping away at that back catalog. Probably by the end of the month or so, have that current. So I think we'll have it set up probably by March sometime so that you'll be able to support through Patreon over there on the Gramerica Outlawed Patreon. I think it's integratable. They'll give you a podcast feed or it's integratable to Spotify is the rumor. So we'll see how that works. Of course, that's all for Gramerica. We do have a Patreon too, the Gramerica Show Patreon, if you want to support us there for value work here. I think this is episode 641, right? 642. It's a lot. It's all free. Support it. Gramerica.ca/support. So what's new? What are you rattled about? Tell us what you're rattled about.
No. It's not for this show. No, we'll talk about it in the roundup maybe. And we're doing these roundups in Gramerica Outlawed. That's like sort of every Wednesday kind of thing. Depends on the week, but yeah. No, it's not for. I don't want to talk about it on here.
All right.
It's about fighting over the jibby jab with some shills, basically. That's it.
Graham has been radicalized. Graham radicalized even though he has a pride flag in his background.
I don't. That's just the dark side of the moon, dude. It's this Pink Floyd before there was,
It's exempt.
Yeah, it's
grandfathered in.
It's grandfathered in.
Shot a pheasant.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Wow.
It's a big
in your yard?
Yeah.
Tell us about the yard stories. Like you've had a coyote. Wasn't there a coyote killing something or chasing something around in there?
There's a coyote chasing a rabbit.
In the
I
yard.
didn't see that though. I just got the video of that. I seen a video of a coyote. I don't know if that I guess in the pasture. It's not the yard. I feel like the yard ends at the fence, the little fence with the grass.
But it's on the property that you have access to.
On the property. It's the pasture. So it's like the pasture. It's unkempt. But still the yard, I guess, the greater yard. But yeah, there's seen a coyote. I seen a video of a coyote chasing a rabbit. I have seen a few rabbits around. I'm wanting to set up some snares, but I'm worried I'll catch a cat.
Did you really? Did you see that video at all? The two big dogs chasing that rabbit through the fields.
No,
did you see that a while back. Oh, it was amazing. They were just on the tail of this rabbit, but they could not catch the rabbit.
And then I was blowing up some tannerite again. I mean, you must see the explosions in the chat
on the compound.
Yeah, that side is the compound side. I always tell the wife, if I ever get arrested, it'll definitely be a compound and explosive materials and an arsenal and
Yeah.
a stash of ammo
Yeah, exactly.
or cash. Cash? Is it a stash or a cash?
What?
Is it a stash ammo or a cash ammo? When you have
No, stash, I think. Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it's
stash can be used for anything. So what about the pheasant then? Did you killed it on your property?
Yeah, with a shotgun.
Oh, really? Wow.
We followed his footprints in the snow
Really?
to where he was roosted up. And then when we got about, I don't know, 20 feet away, he flew. Shot him.
Wow.
Game over. Game over, nigga. He's in the brine right now.
Nice.
So probably eat him tomorrow. Yeah, put him in the pressure cooker for a couple minutes and bingo bango. Be fucking eating some yard bird. They're pretty delicious. There's some bigger tracks too going around. The rabbits are just I haven't seen them yet. But I was just showing you before. I just bought that new gun. It's the HMR 17 HMR, one of the two, but it's basically like it's like a pellet gun with a Magnum fucking cartridge behind it. So it blows a 22 out of the water. So I should, this will be the off the deck shooting rabbit, shooting grouse, shooting, because right now I don't really have a good gun for that. The shotgun's great, but its effective range is really only 40 yards or so. Especially with the number 6 shot, we're using number 6 shot lead shot for bird, maybe 50 if you're lucky, but your spread is pretty sparse by that point.
What's the range on this other one here?
Well, 400 or 500 yards. I mean, further than you could see with the irons for sure. I haven't decided if I'm going to put a scope on it. I might, just because the 22 is okay with just the irons, but and just the irons is okay even for like I just had. Well, I went to a red dot now, but I was just doing irons on my SKS, and if you were just shooting like people or deer or something like that, then it's no problem. Just shoot something with your irons at 200 yards.
But it's the time.
I have trouble seeing a rabbit at 200 yards, like even just distinct, because it's not just like a white rabbit on a black fucking. It's not like the targets I'm shooting, or like it's the silhouettes or the gongs I'm shooting. It's like you'll just see it. If you see it out there, I have a hard time seeing it. Period, without some magnification in my old age. So, but that being said, I could shoot a deer with some irons at a few hundred yards. It's a much bigger target. Now you're looking at a little grouse on the ground. It's like the size of a deer's ankle. And you got to try and shoot that. And, but hopefully with this new one, because that 22, I've been just using the kids 22. Dude, it's purple. And it's like 2 feet long. It's very short. It's got a very short barrel. So it's hard to be accurate with it, I find, outside of 50 yards. And it's dropping off pretty quick, too. I mean, outside of 50 yards, the 22 starts dropping fast. And this new one's not supposed to do that. So it's a good gun for you.
Yeah, it would be. Probably fit me.
It's very, it fits you. It's very.
Yeah.
So that being said, you're very stout. You should be able to shoot any gun and feel pretty secure about it. Just nuzzle it into because that's the breast that didn't get reduced, isn't it?
Nuzzle it into the right breast.
Nuzzle it into your breast. And away you go. Just above. And away you go. If you guys want to see those tannerite explosions, I mean, I have a nice tannerite gas mixture now that does get a nice little Hollywood style fireball. The miss can shoot too. She shot a couple, so she could outshoot you for sure, hands down. But the best way is to join the chats. Grimerica.ca/chats or the Telegram, which is I think it's what TM/me or T/me/ it's in the show notes anyway. If you join our Telegram, it's just Grimerica.
Yeah, it's t.me. Grimerica. Yeah,
those are the two places that I tend to upload those videos. of us doing that kind of stuff around the ranch or just the general ranch stuff. You get some ranch content there. So
We should mention the Gilded too. Did you mention that? Because Ryan
that's
from
a
Kansas,
chat.
helped us out. Yeah,
Chats.
there's a link to the Gilded in the show notes too. Yeah.
Of course, yeah, it's good times. Check that shit out. Sign up for that stuff. And you can follow us there. Of course, we're on Instagram. You can follow us my personal Instagram if you can find me. Darren_Grimes_. Apparently I'm hard to find. And you have to like sign a waiver to follow me. So not a waiver. I just ask if you're sure. You're sure you want to follow this guy. He's troublesome. So I'm up to 110 Twitter followers on my new ghost account. So if you need help, just shoot me a DM and I'll come over and call someone a faggot or something. It's like a burner account for me. So I could like, dude, I got my burner account verified.
How's the campaign to get your other account back? I mean,
dude, I had this whole well thought out thing, and it just, they held on to it a little longer than last time. I thought I might have got through, but then I just got the same peel back.
Really?
And I think it was just a weird coincidence that they had it longer. Not that someone, but Shauna got me the mailing address, so.
Oh, good.
I'm gonna take my thing I've got done out, has a whole Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom stuff in it. To express myself, and I'm gonna send that and we'll see what happens. So
good for you. Yeah. Are you gonna handwrite it or type it out or?
I think I'll type it out. No one's gonna read my handwriting, dude.
Yeah, you can't. You're not very nice handwriting.
Like, what the fuck is this? I could shoot a deer far away. I can't write stuff around this white people stuff.
He's got doctors' note handwriting.
That's right. I could have been a great doctor. I feel like lawyers write like that too. Yeah, maybe it's behind his eye. So anyway, my burner Twitter account, people want to check that out, is Atlas_____shrugs. I was just suspended for 12 hours. So
what?
Yeah.
On Twitter?
Yeah.
Why?
I said Hanje Yusuf.
Hanje, I don't know what that means.
HANGE. And then Yusuf, YOUSEF. And it said I was telling someone to kill himself. So,
well, is that what does it mean? Is that what it means?
No, it doesn't mean that.
No,
it just kind of looks like that.
Oh,
what I was going for. It's what I was going for, but it's like it doesn't make any sense in any language.
And they found it.
Yeah, dude.
What did they say exactly?
They said I'm suspended for 12 hours for encouraging self-harm, which means they know I was trying to say hang yourself.
Well, you should have just said made yourself.
Dude, that's what I should start saying. I'm going to try that and see if I get suspended.
Yeah.
Made yourself. Dude, where were you like the other day?
Well, I mean, we talk about made on every outlawed almost. So.
Because this is a dude that's talking about like overpopulation. That was the concept. Talking about how
just say you've been made, like you've been
people
made.
Ruining the planet. So I'm just like Hanja Yusef.
You've been made out.
Hanja Yusef.
.A.I.D.
Did I stumble into some weird incel stuff that's like code and Twitter knows it? Like maybe this is like a thing that everyone already knows about. Like that's like already code. I was blown away that it would pick that up, dude. There's a chance that you wouldn't pick that up. There's a chance that
it took me a while from you telling me.
There's a chance that if you like stumbled across that on Twitter, you would just like be out of what the fuck this guy say? You might not figure it out. What are you typing it out?
Yeah.
HANGE YOUSE. Yusuf is a name, bro.
Mm-hmm.
The AI picked that. Dude is instant. So it's not like it got reported. It was fucking an instant, like hit send, boop, pop out comes up. You're suspended. Your countdown starts.
That's
12,
crazy.
12 hours after you
Really?
delete the tweet.
What did they pick out? They must have just picked out HANG out of there, and that was it. Like that one word, that one 4-letter word within another word.
Yeah. And you, I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy, right? How the fuck does it pick that up?
Yeah, you should just, just talk government speak from now on. Just use made.
Made. Oh, dude, that's good. I mean, when a guy's
Or you can
going
just
off
stop
about,
being mean, I guess, too.
who do they want to get rid of, though? If you're going off on Twitter about how there's too many people on the planet and ruining the place, then who are you? If you aren't volunteering, then who are you fucking
I know.
implying?
Who is more special than other people, right?
Is it Graham or
Who
is it
gets to
black
decide?
people? Is it brown people? Is it
What
yellow
human?
people?
Smart people, dumb people.
Other white people
short
other than yourself?
Definitely not short people.
Unvaccinated people? Is it short people? Is it fat people? Who is it? It's not you. I'm going to go back and try and made yourself. I better leave that one alone. I'll try it on the next one. MAD. Hey, Jugmeat, kind of like Doug the Slug, the Indian terrorist Canadian Parliament member. I was actually, dude, I'm working downtown again. So I was like walking through the plus 15s. I haven't been in a plus 15 in so long because the parking seems to have come back in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Where I can park.
Yeah.
And
stay inside.
Yeah. And but not have to stay inside. It's been a nice winter, so I haven't been using the plus 15s as much. I don't have a major downtown park
I see what you mean. Yeah.
that doesn't have parking. But today I just had to go check out a new lobby job. So I had to go through all the high rises downtown. And then I forget what. Oh, I noticed there's not as much pink and purple hair anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. But I had another point for that story, and now I don't know what it was. I lost it somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I can't remember either. I can't remember what you're going to say. Usually I know where you're going with things, but I don't think I was picking up what you were putting down.
All over the place. What were we talking about right before?
Well, that's what I can't remember.
Really?
The maid and all that.
The maid and the too many people. And it does seem like there's too many people downtown. Anyway, maybe it'll come to me one day.
Yeah, was it the overpopulation of downtown? Is that what it is?
Nah, downtown ain't bad.
Okay. I don't know.
It was busy. The plus 15s were busy. Oh, this fat pussy, so. Everyone's just a docile look to him now.
Oh, yeah. It's weird.
It's weird. I don't know if it's just psychosomatic that I think they're all sheep, so they start to look like sheep inside just to me, or if it's always been that way, or if it's from the shots, or if it's just my ego. But I just like, you guys are fucking idiots.
I know you got to be careful with that judgment, man. It's it can be dangerous.
It can. METHOD, man. All right, your bio.
Well, Chris is a Sibylist, Synchromystic, Spellbreaker, Gen X, and loving it. I'm gonna read the brief little thing from his Patreon. A guided Synchromystic tour through the postmodern apocalypse. Your go-to guide for the latest in emergent archetypal dominance and decoder rings to make sense of all the endless gaslighting and ritualism. The keys to health and death, occasional recipes and dog videos lightly seasoned with cringe-worthy dad jokes. So check it out. He's got twitter.com/secretsunblog and thesecretsun.blogspot.com.
Secretsun.blogspot.com. Check it out, guys. For now, enjoy the chat with the one and only Christopher Knowles.
to prepare.
When did I do a show with Greg? I don't even
It
remember.
was a few months ago, but you know what? He takes a while to release too. But we are actually live now. So, the master of synchromysticism, Chris, welcome back. How you doing?
Doing great. Glad
That's
to
good.
be here.
Yeah, I mean, I love your work, and everybody loves your interviews. So we're really looking forward to it.
Nice.
I don't know where you want to start first, but I mean, I guess, you've got a new book out, and I heard you talking to Greg I guess it was on THC a few months ago. You were going to kind of write like something about instructions toward synchromysticism. So
yeah, that book will be out in April.
okay,
The Synchromystic Handbook. I'm working on it right now.
That's coming pretty quick then.
Well, it's not going to be a super long book. It's a handbook. It's like an instructional book. I don't want, if I bog it down with too much information, people aren't going to use it. It's a book, like it's a handbook. You're supposed to use it. You're supposed to I want people to sort of, I'm actually considering printing it at a smaller size so people can just take it with them everywhere.
Like a real handbook. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Leave it in the glove of your car or somewhere on the little toilet book. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a secret. I actually create books for people to read in the bathroom. That's why, that's why I do these sort of anthologies, where you can just read a chapter and move on with your life,
right.
and then, and you don't have to the next time you're on the can go, oh shit, what was I reading about? I totally forgot. So, no, I do like books that, people can read in chunks, that people don't have to read all at the same time. And that's sort of that's a reflection of my ADD, I guess. I don't know. But no, so the Synchromystic Handbook is going to be out in April, and it's going to be, it's not going to be a tome. The tome is coming in November because I'm writing a book called XF Ultra, The X-Files, Conspiracy Culture, and the National Security State. And what that book is going to be about is, it's just going to talk about, conspiracy culture and how it sort of culminated in the X-Files and then what happened afterwards. So it's going to be an X-Files book for people who, aren't fans of the X-Files. It's going to be a lot of information in there.
That aren't fans of the X-Files.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can be, you
can be.
It's a book for everybody. Yeah. No, but it's like, I'm not going to, it's not going to be just filled with inside baseball and minutia.
Yeah.
Granular minutia, as they say. It's really going to be about conspiracy culture following the end of World War II and, talking about human experimentation and the National Security Act and UFOs, all the way up to things like OKC, the militia movement, shortwave radio, Alex Jones, militias. I mean, there's just going to be a lot in there. It's going to be a tome, but it's going to be, in my style, it's going to be broken up into easily digestible parts. But I really, I think it's a story that needs to be told because we really are, in my estimation, we are at the beginning of the fourth turning, or whatever you choose to call it. It's definitely started. There's no denying it anymore. Things are changing. I feel, and I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I feel that the empire is not necessarily going to die, but I think it's going to be diminished. I think all these crazy plans that they cook up at the World Economic Forum are going to fail. And they've already started to fail. I mean, they cooked up the Ukraine war there, and look how that turned out. We're looking at a turning point in history, I think. And I'm optimistic in the long run. I think in the short run, there's going to be plenty of pain to go around for everyone. But I think in the long run, we're going to have a restoration of balance. Because to me, the greatest evil in history is globalism. And all the bad things that have happened over the past 30 plus years have all been to serve the globalist project. So just think of how many millions of people have died to serve that project. Starting with the Iraq wars, all the Afghanistan, 9/11. I mean, you name it, up and down the line. All these things have been in the service of the globalist project, which people used to call the New World Order. The New World Order is going to die, and there's going to be a new World Order.
Yeah.
And really, what it was is it was hubris, and it was like kind of like the kind of, you remember back. I don't know if you were ever in college, but you'd be in the dorm room with your friends and like smoking bong, doing bong hits or whatever. And, oh man, I'm going to, like I have these plans and I'm going to, conquer the world and all this kind of stuff. It's just like that type of stupidity, that kind of sophomoric stupidity writ large. I mean, I have nothing but contempt for these like Davos people. And I tweeted the other day that the biggest mistake they ever made was live streaming those conferences there, because we all can see what a bunch of ninnies they are.
They have to turn their comments off. I mean, I was going to ask you if this was a recent confirmation for you. Like, they none of these people can have comments on their social medias. I mean, there's so many people now pushing back. And then you get to see what Alex Soros is. It Alex Soros is what his name is.
Alexander Soros.
How well spoken he is. I
think he might be functionally retarded. I think he's just really, nobody is that poorly spoken. I mean, public speaking is hard. I mean, let's just face the facts.
Yeah, but wouldn't you take some training if you're in his position
exactly.
and have all that money? Would you not figure it out? I mean, come on.
No, he's stupid.
You're going to go on the world stage and
his father's stupid. I mean, people think that George Soros is this great manipulator. He's just a guy who had a lot of money through the usual unethical means and just, was willing to part with it to achieve these pipe dreams he had.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's a whole different story, but if you read his writings, it's almost like Chat GPT level of just utter mediocrity, just unremarkable mediocrity. And a lot of people think that he's just fronting for other interests in other organizations as well, which could very possibly be true. I don't know. But the thing is that when we see these people, it's almost like, have you ever seen TEDx? So they used to have TED Talks, right? Maybe they still do. But then they'd have TEDx, which was sort of like the second string, or sort of like the minor leagues, sort of like the Bush League TED Talks. And that's the like, to me, it's like even below that. So I don't know if you're a baseball fan at all, but, in the minor leagues, it's like AAA, AA, and single A, the farm system, as they call it. You guys baseball fans at all?
No.
Kinda. Okay. I used to be. I could definitely talk baseball, and I played baseball most of my life. And
well, so you might be familiar with that. So it's just like TED Talks to me is like the major leagues, and TEDx is like AAA. But these idiots at Davos, it's like they wouldn't even make it if they didn't have this infrastructure and they had to like create their own brands, as the saying goes, like you guys did. Nobody would want to listen to them. Nobody would care. They're all just mediocritons. They're all people who exist inside the system. They know how to manipulate the system through just being completely unethical, just being backstabbing scumbags. But they don't have any thoughts in their head. All they are is just creatures of pure ambition. But sometimes they're not even that. It's like nepotism. They had rich parents, so they were placed in these positions. So I like I said, I think that, you think this is going to be this long drawn out process.
I do. Yeah.
I don't. I hope
not. I mean, I hope not. I hope it's going to accelerate. I mean, Davos's theme was bit rebuilding trust. So you don't think it's working?
Yeah, well, if that's your theme, that you feel you have to rebuild trust, it shows you don't have any, and like then nobody trusts you, and there's no rebuilding it.
That was the theme, right? I'm not.
Yeah, there's no way that you can rebuild that trust. It's gone. You know how it is. I mean, it's just basic human nature. If somebody stabs you in the back or screws you over or has sex with your wife or something, you're never going to trust them again. You're just not. And once trust is broken, it can never be um, rebuilt. But the other problem they have is that once fear is broken, people used to, you'd hear all these stories and conspiracy channels and so on that, oh my God, these people are all superhuman, super villains, and they all just like, galaxy brain, 200 IQ geniuses. And then we see them and they're just a bunch of dopes, because the system actually actively discourages that kind of intelligence. It's not useful to them. They want people who are drones who do what they're told. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
intelligent people are going to question these crazy, stupid plans that they have. I mean, none of this stuff is going to work. So much of it is reliant on supply chains from China and so on. And China's just like, they're done. It's just, they're done with us, is what I mean.
So were you connecting your X-File? Were you kind of connecting your sort of X-Files thing into what's happening right now? Like, do you think that, let me sort of think about, do you think that X-Files, created this conspiracy culture, and maybe it's like an egregore type thing or something, but it's sort of now snowballing to the point where they can't control it anymore. I mean, we narrated the 2008 paper by Cass Sunstein on how to deal with conspiracies, right? It was really fascinating. And they used, of course, the examples of like 9/11 and all these JFK, but they analyzed how to deal with it. Do you go along with it? Do you sort of hijack it? Do you push back against it? And they sort of did this sort of analysis, but I don't think they can control it anymore. Is that what you're kind of saying? Or?
Yeah, they can't. I mean, 2008 might have been in just a completely different world, because that's really before Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and all these things really bit down. The problem, and this is the problem. So yes, I think that X-Files had a huge effect in accelerating conspiracy culture. I don't think, it used to be a very marginal thing. It was a bunch of guys, in the backwoods on their ham radios, whatever, shortwave radios. It just wasn't mainstreamed. X-Files mainstreamed conspiracy culture. And it also mainstreamed the backlash against it. I mean, there's certainly backlash against it. But, despite the opinions that too many people have who have no experience with media. I mean, I have experience with media. I've worked in the media. I know the thinking. People who don't work in the media don't understand how it works, how people think and so on and so forth. So with the X-Files, it's just like, people in the Rupert Murdoch level, they didn't care. This is going to start this whole conspiracy. It's like, they weren't even thinking that. There was like, is this show going to succeed or is this show going to fail? And by the time it became a hit and the writers started really greasing the wheels with deeper conspiracy material, it was too late to stop it. I would say an example where they did stop it, where they knew that, they didn't want this to happen again, was with Stranger Things. So the first Stranger Things, to me, I think is one of the most brilliant things ever produced for television. I think it's just an absolute masterpiece. I mean, I don't know how old you guys are, but I was like 7.
I'm your age. I'm a Gen X. So.
Okay. So, I mean, I was like 16 in 1983. And I mean, it blows my mind how they just capture it completely. Yeah. It's frightening, especially since those guys are young. But then the second series, you could just meet, Gordon White, who we were like, yeah, they got the talk, because the second, third, and fourth series were just completely different animals. They weren't talking about MK Ultra and all this kind of stuff. They sort of revisited that in the fourth series, but it was very X-Men. It was very comic booky. It wasn't the way they handled it in the first series, where it's very dark and very real. They clearly got the talk, because there's Soros again, there's Soros and Obama and all those people who have their hooks in Netflix. They're not going to let that happen again.
So that you think that it slips through, some of these things slip through a little bit, and then they kind of have to look at it and reanalyze a little bit, and somebody gets a tap on the shoulder. And then, so what about the last series of X-Files with the more recent one? Wasn't there like a mini series that came out when even on Fox's phone, you saw Harry Reid texted him on the phone about UFOs. I mean, there's some real nods to real life ufology happening in that last series. So is that part of your whole analysis, or like, is that
It
part of
will
your-
be, yeah, because I mean, one of the things that's really interesting, because I'm really following just the way that mainstream media is just completely collapsing, and the acceleration.
especially even recently, like last couple days.
Oh
even.
yeah. I mean, it's it's kind of like you build a rotten foundation, and it sort of creaks and leans, and then it just finally collapses. I mean, the mainstream media has been built on a completely rotten foundation for at least the past 20 years. And it's collapsing now. Okay. But the interesting thing to me about that is that they were sort of at their height in 2016 because there was this whole resistance. They were resisting Donald Trump or whatever. It was just complete nonsense. It's just total CIA psyops. But when that first episode of the new X-Files series aired, and I don't know if you remember, but they had this whole kind of speech talking about how the New World Order was going to be instilled and everything, and they were going to set up in emergencies and have cyber attacks, and people won't be able to get food and all this kind of stuff. I mean, this whole litany. I mean, it really is a litany. It's not particularly well written drama, but it made its point. And I remember the next day, people were on fire. I mean, even Alex Jones was talking about it. People were like, they couldn't believe it because it was every kind of hardcore conspiracy theory that was circulating on the internet, like played out on television. And
When was
also,
that?
that was 2016.
Oh, it was. It was that
yeah.
long ago. When the
Yes.
and then holy shit. Okay.
It was right. They aired that episode after the Super Bowl, so like 16 million people watched it, and the knives were out in the media. I mean, Time Magazine and the New York Times both wrote 2 articles trashing Chris Carter and attacking him and saying he's like this dangerous reactionary and so on and so forth. And every review was just going after like, why are they giving credence to this marginal Alex Jones type of conspiracy theory? I mean, people were upset. People in the mainstream media were upset. They really were. Unfortunately for him, they didn't really follow it on. That series, that 2016 series was really bad. But
wasn't that the one where they had the contagion in the end too? And
yeah. Yes. The outbreak. But that had been a plot point in the series since the very beginning.
Yeah.
The whole idea of like the viral apocalypse and so on. So, but people were like, I just remember, like, if you were tuned into the conspiracy, which, everybody was watching InfoWars back then, whether you liked Alex Jones or not. I mean, you went and checked them out, right? And this is before Drudge sold out, and just that whole network. There was just a kind of like a network of almost quasi-mainstream conspiracy channels and so on. And everybody was just like, they couldn't believe it. And I just remember, like, people were on fire, and the media, like I said, just went after it. Hammer and tongs. They're just like, no, this is not going to happen. This is not going to fly. And in that series in 2018 that referring to the last season, I mean, they did like an MK Naomi plot line. They did like a spirit cooking plot line. They did a thing on the Mandela effect. I mean, they were sort of going for the gusto, but they had to sort of leaven it because Hollywood just would not allow anything that might be seen as sympathetic to Trump or sympathetic to anyone who's not completely subservient to the party, the capital P party. The party is all. The party is a cult. And if you question that, if you question the CIA, I mean, it's amazing to me, like being somebody who was very much on the left in the 80s and 90s, and just seeing like everything that I thought was left suddenly became alt-right. It's like,
Yeah.
the hell did that happen? Everything that I like, anti-war, anti-surveillance, free speech, up and down the line, constitutional rights, just became alt-right somehow. And this is the sickness in the system, that it can't even maintain its own internal logic, and that's why it's going to collapse.
Right.
So
So how do
and
you
I'm not
think
saying it's going to be easier.
fast, then?
I think it's going to happen in a period, I'd say about 5 to 10 years. That the current regime, the current power structure, don't forget how old the people at the top of the pyramid are. Biden, Soros, Kissinger just died. Nancy Pelosi. I mean, even Trump is old. I mean, all these people are so old, and you just feel it. Like we are just so weighted down by old energy. With the, like boomer energy. The entire culture, the entire world is just being pinned down because these people, these boomers, and so on, were never willing to just retire and pass the torch on. Because it's such, the me generation, that's what they called it back in the 70s, just a completely narcissistic, self-involved generation. And, they didn't leave things, it used to be like you would leave, in your will, you'd leave your house to your kids, things like that, inheritance and so on. And the boomers just like, well, screw this. We're just, he who dies with the most toys wins kind of thing. I mean, it's a sick, evil generation. Just more sick and evil. I mean, not that, humanity itself is not rather depraved, but they were just, just the worst. And I don't see, this is the thing. I don't blame them, because they were brought up with the mass media, and the mass media is definitely almost dead. Okay. The mass media is almost dead, but people forget how powerful and how pervasive and how insidious it was. I mean,
Like in the 70s and 80s, you mean, or earlier than that?
yeah.
60s,
Here's the thing. All right. So I'm old, right? I'm an old dude. And, I remember when I was a kid, I mean, we were poor. But we had a black and white TV that was just VHF channels. We didn't even get UHF channels on it, just black and white TV. And you got 2, 4, 5, 7, and 13. So it's 5 channels that we could get. And there was like channel 9, but that was up in New Hampshire. So that's it. That's all you got. And then, VHF, there were 3 channels. So it was basically like 8 channels that you had to watch, 3 networks.
My channel 9 was just like some words on the screen, and then it would play different radio stations. It was like different public announcements that weren't even from my town. It was from I think it was from Kenora. So it was from the town that was like 3 hours away. And then just, like the local billboard. And then it would play just the radio stations from around Canada.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started with 3 channels. And then, I think, by the time I was 18, by that time it'd probably broken loose and you could get satellite and stuff like that. But up until I was 13 or 14, there wasn't a lot of TV options out there. I was probably about 13 when the satellite dishes started, and that's kind of what opened it up. Before that, it was the same thing. It was like a progression from 3 channels to 4 channels to, I think we got like the first 12 channels. Then we didn't get any till 18. And then eventually we got Much Music. That was channel 22. And, you're all excited about it. But when you look back at it now, it's just like it was the beginning of the end.
Well, see, I didn't watch much TV at all in high school because I was pretty wild. I was in the punk rock scene, and I was in Boston a lot. I was running around. I was total pothead. I was just not an upstanding citizen, but I also wasn't home a lot to watch television. I just didn't care. And, plus there was nothing really that good on besides Hill Street Blues. So you went out and did stuff. You probably, probably the same thing with you guys. You went out and, we built forts
Oh yeah,
in the
we were free
summertime.
range kids. I mean, we were free range.
Total
We
free
just go out
range.
and we'd play with all the kids in the neighborhood of different ages, and everybody would figure shit out. And it was just come home
Yeah.
come home when it's dark or whatever. And but I think what you're getting at is that there was a channel, like a really narrow channel for adults during that time. The boomers, our parents, of reality, of their vision of reality was just molded by 5 channels on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the thing too is that there was a lot of printed information. News, you'd go into a newsstand and there'd be at least like good sized newsstand would have like at least 1,000 magazines available. And, but, most people didn't really take advantage of that. They read, maybe they read Time or Newsweek or something, which is all just CIA crap anyway. So they were just part of a generation that was, mind controlled and, learning all the techniques that they sort of perfected during the war and the Cold War and everything. So like I said, I don't blame them per se. I mean, everybody is sort of a captive of their circumstances, but they did a piss poor job at training up the younger generations.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
They
mean,
were living large.
yeah, well, yeah, the me generation, I just remember in my neighborhood, even though most of the parents in the neighborhood, like my mom was a boomer and she had me when I was 20, but most of the parents were much older. But for some reason in the 70s, they just like all the parents, at least in my area, just decided en masse to just let the kids run free while they, went to discos or TM meetings or I don't know, wherever the hell they went. Key parties. I don't even know where the
I
hell
was
they.
going to say exactly that. It's like you read my mind.
So, yeah, I mean, we had no supervision, and I was a incredible truant. Just could get away with it. So why would I bother go to school if I didn't have to go? Right? And finally, they busted me. And every time I was absent, they would call my mother. But I took advantage of it. And but the thing is that there was no structure in my life, and most of the kids I knew, there was no structure because the older generation just didn't care. Like they were just so involved with themselves and so in love with the feeling of their youth that they could not let go of it. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it was like this in Rome or whatever, Han China or Baghdad or, whatever ancient collapsed civilization or collapsed empire you can name. But I mean, that was the beginning of the end because there has to be continuity. I mean, you have to, I was a terrible son, but I was a good parent, and all my kids went to school and they've got good careers and good jobs and stuff. Because I sort of learned those lessons. But the point is that the boomers just did not do it. They didn't.
But didn't we appreciate that freedom? Like that, doesn't Gen X appreciate that freedom now? But
I did.
Or what are you saying that the majority of the Gen X didn't raise the millennials now and in turn, like it just sort of trickles down?
Know.
Like, are you blaming the boomer generation for this trickle down effect of like where
I'm not blaming the generations?
Right
no, I'm blaming the culture. I'm blaming the society.
Yeah, exactly. The brainwashing that was happening. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that society that's breaking down, I mean, you're like the pop culture guy. You've read all the books, you've seen all the shows, you've seen all the movies. Who nailed it? Who got the breakdown right? Who got it the closest? How do you see this happening in the short term and then in the long term? Because I agree with you on all fronts, I'm pretty sure. And I think it's like where Graham says it's going to happen slow, I think it is going to happen slow, and then it's going to happen fast. But the thing is, it's been happening slow for a little while. So when it starts to happen fast, it's going to seem like it's weird until like, 20 or 30 years from now, when you look back, it's gonna be like, oh yeah, you can see like that's where it started. That's when it like really started breaking down, was right there.
Well, I'll tell you why I think it can break down quickly. One of the things that I've said, I said on Greg's show, I've said on a number of different shows, is that people don't understand that the U.S. Navy runs the world. Okay. I'm talking about like the actual, boots on the ground. I mean, where the rubber hits the road. I'm not talking about people in banks or whatever. I'm saying the U.S. Navy keeps the shipping lanes open, and they protect shipping from piracy and so on. And they did so for 80 years. They did a good job at it. They did a good job at keeping world trade going, keeping the ships moving, keeping the pirates at bay.
Keeping the lid on UFOs.
Well,
Yeah.
that was like the whole thing at the end of World War II. That was the deal that the U.S. Navy was gonna do.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. The U.S. Navy basically guaranteed, safe passage for shipping. Now, you've probably seen what's going on in the Red Sea with the Houthis, right? And the Houthis are holding up, mostly ships, U.S., UK, and ships doing business with Israel. Now, the U.S. has been bombing the crap out of them, but we were bombing the crap out of them for years. Okay, I mean, the Houthis have been, they're like, it's like survival of the fittest kind of evolutionary theory in action, because they've been like getting the brunt of it for a long time, and they don't give a fuck. They don't care. They're like, we're gonna shoot missiles at your ships. We're gonna shoot missiles at you. You can bomb our tents because we're all in these underground tunnels anyway. We don't care. That is
Like the Fremen.
Yeah, exactly. Like they are kind of like the Fremen, and like the U.S. Navy is like the Harkonnen, right? And see, this is a very serious point in our history, and we don't realize it, because this is the proving ground for fourth generational warfare. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term, but it's where warfare is asymmetrical. That mobile, portable military units, rather than these huge armies and these huge ships and these huge planes and everything. I mean, just sort of like hit and run groups.
Yeah. A little
and
more
just
decentralized. Yeah.
Yeah, just like the Fremen, right? I mean,
And they can be, maybe because of technology nowadays. I mean, if everybody has a phone or some
Exactly.
kind of activation device, they can go wherever they want. They can also go into the southern border. They can go into the UK and Germany and Europe and
Yes.
wherever they want.
But the drones are a total game changer.
Yeah.
Because
just before you finish off about the drones, I want to make a point about the ships and the Navy and that, because what happens usually with these false flags that start wars, it's a lot of times it happens on a ship, right? A ship was attacked.
Mhm.
And you kind of know this is different this time, because people have been saying, oh, they're war hawks, they want to go to war. Well, they had their chance to make a big deal about these ships getting attacked and go to war, like officially, like put it in the media. They're attacking our ships. This is war. We're in the war. Like, but for some reason they're scared, or they're not wanting to put it out there in the public eye that we're going to war. We're being attacked. We're going to attack back. Like, there's something weird going on where they're just allowing it to happen.
Well, but that's the changeover. That's part of the fourth turning. The drones, like I said, are a huge game changer, but like anti-ship missile technology has really improved. Both the Russians and the Chinese have what they call carrier killers. So what's happened now, even before things have really even heated up, is that all these carrier groups and battleships are basically, I don't want to say they're scared per se, but they're very cautious about staying out of the range of all this ordnance. Okay, they're very cautious about staying away from these carrier killers, these missiles that the Russians have developed, and all these other types of missiles, but also these drones and so on. And I was reading about this in, I think it might have been, it was definitely like some sort of military industrial complex magazine. I forget exactly what it was, but they were saying, the big problem is that the Houthis will send this missile that they spent $200 to build, and we have to shoot up $1 million anti-missile to take the thing down. And that's the asymmetry there, is that they can do that all day long. They can just send whatever the hell they got because it's cheap and it's fast and it's easy to make, and they just send it over. And we've got these, like these Patriot batteries, and the Israelis have the Iron Dome and all the Stone and all this kind of stuff, which is relatively effective, but it really gets to the point that you're just kind of like swatting at flies, and it's very, very expensive. And I think the money is going to run out. I really do. I think that what is going to happen is that, I don't know if it's going to be Biden or if Trump gets in, or whoever is just going to like, we can't do this anymore. We're just going to have to write the Red Sea off for now until we have until we have some closure with the situation in Gaza. I mean, it's just a write-off.
But aren't they prepared for all this when they're,
no, they're not. That's the thing. They're not prepared for it. We see it. We see it now. They're not prepared for it. We've always, this is the problem. And I just bring this up because I'm always arguing with, people, particularly like in the conspiracy field, is that there's always like, oh, there's got to be something. It's always like the can's always kicked down the road. When we see this failure after failure among the regime and the empire, well, there's got to be something. They got to be hiding something. They've got to have like UFO technology, these hangars or something, or just something. And it's just, no, it's what you see is what you get. I mean, if they had this kind of technology, believe me, they would have used it a long time ago. They would use it just to completely nail down the New World Order. Why would you allow Russia to just build millions of shells all night and day that, you can just lob at anyone? And believe me, those make a lot bigger difference than all these high-tech systems that they have. Why would they allow that to happen? Why would they allow Ukraine to just be bombed to shit, right? Why would they do that? I mean, that, like I said, that was George Soros's project. That was his pet project. He's like, we're going to use the Ukrainians to take down Putin and take down the Russians. His project, so the entire infrastructure, for some reason, don't ask me why, goes along with it. But it's like, it's failed. It has failed. And, they failed in Afghanistan. Look what happened in Afghanistan. I mean, how humiliating could it possibly get? Where, like, not only did they leave under pressure, but all this military equipment is left behind. That equipment is going to be used against us or our allies in the future. You can just take that to the bank.
It might be getting shot at your shipping boats right now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, we grew up, and like I said, the boomers, and we grew up with Hollywood, right? We grew up in like kind of the golden age of Hollywood. Like I was going to see movies. I mean, I saw Star Wars when I was 10 years old.
Oh yeah, I saw it in a drive-through. I was on a swing set in the drive-through in Montreal. Like, I mean,
that's awesome. That's awesome. But I mean, I remember like all those great movies. I mean, I remember like 1982 was like one great movie. It was like E.T. and Poltergeist and Conan and Road Warrior and Blade Runner, and it was just like your head was spinning because it was just like you couldn't believe how great everything was. But
not only that, you're being introduced to a lot of crazy concepts and ideas.
Exactly.
There's not really a lot of that.
Nothing
anymore. I mean, the last time I can really remember something like that was probably Interstellar, and it was like a depressing one. It was like a depressing.
Well, but that's like when you start to realize that, you just because you had these great plans doesn't mean you're going to be able to carry them out. But we were so conditioned by science fiction to think that like, oh, well, there's got to be something, like the cavalry is going to come riding in with some super technology at the last minute, just like when things look hopeless, because that's Hollywood, that's Aliens in 1986, right? It's just not the way the world really works. And I'll tell you, when I really first started to wake up to this, I don't know if I told you guys this story before, but I remember back in 2011, it was Halloween, it's October, and it had been really warm that month. So like the trees, the leaves were still on all the trees, but then all of a sudden the weather changed and we had this massive snowstorm, and it was a really wet snow. So what had happened is that all these trees started falling because they couldn't handle the weight. All these branches started falling. And I remember I was out there with my son, and we're trying to hold up this tree from crashing into my wife's car. The thing is like leaning like this, and we're doing all that we can do. Luckily, the roots sort of kept it up. We're doing all that we can do to keep my wife's car from being crushed. And I'm out there, and I'm hearing these branches snap, and it sounds like D-Day or something. It sounds like just bombs going off. That's this, and I'm thinking, why don't they stop this? And I stop myself for a minute. It's like, who is going to stop what? How are they going to stop this? Is there some kind of technology that's going to melt all the snow instantly? Like, why do I think these things? And I started to interrogate that, and I was thinking, it's because of Hollywood. It's because of comic books and Hollywood and television, where it's like, we just, our science has no limits. We are gods, and if we don't have this godlike technology in our public view, it's because they're hiding it for some reason.
Well,
they're maliciously hiding it.
And they sure utilize that with QAnon and Trust the Plan. I mean, to take it to the next level over since Trump came in. I mean, it was taking that and then saying, okay, it's okay. There's going to be the white hats and Trust the Plan. But you were going to go towards the U.S. Navy runs the world, and that's going to be, the acceleration is going to happen because we have to. Well,
that's what I was saying. I mean, I was saying that the U.S. Navy was seen to be impervious, but now they're not, because there are all these equalizers now. Anti-ship missiles, drones, anti-ship missiles. The carrier killers. There's all these tools now. You might not be able to sink these ships per se because they're pretty big and pretty rugged, right? But you can damage the hell out of them. You can poke holes in them. And, the Navy spends, $1.5 billion on an aircraft carrier. Do you think they want one of those things to get sunk? I mean, maybe even more. It's probably even more than that now. It's probably like $5 billion. Who knows? I don't know. But do you think they want those things to get sunk? And a few years ago, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was this huge fire at the Naval Yard in San Diego, and like brand new ships were destroyed. So, there isn't it's not like there's a toaster oven where you can just pop out a new ship. Those things take like a long ass time to build, and you need skilled labor. I mean, Darren and I have talked about, the collapse. And, he was talking about in construction, like the fact that these people coming into construction can barely wield a hammer. There are limits. And if you don't, keep planting those seeds for the future, eventually the fields are going to go barren. And that's why I think it's going to collapse quickly, because all the preconditions, we've sort of been cruising on inertia, and all the preconditions for, if not outright collapse, then certainly an existential crisis, with the empire, are all in place. They're all in place, every single one of them. And it's just a question of how they're going to play out. I don't think it can be stopped. I think it's going to be quicker than we can imagine. But I also think in the long run, it's going to be a better thing, because we shouldn't be stomping around the world, conquering other people's planets, countries, and taking the oil and all this kind of stuff. The United States and Canada has everything that you could ever need forever. We have more. The United States and Canada has more oil and gas than the rest of the world combined. Okay, we have rivers, we have huge, abundant agriculture. We have wheat fields as far as the eye can see, cornfields, cattle grazing. We don't need the world. We just don't need, and there's nothing that the world can offer us that we can't make ourselves. I mean, automation. I mean, we don't need to send all the labor out to these slave camps in China anymore. So that's why, I mean, I am hopeful that, it's going to be painful, but it's kind of, to me, it's like the metaphor that I use. It's like globalism is a cancer. Okay. It's a cancer on the body politic. And we need to, get it out. Chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, whatever. We need to get that cancer out of the body politic. But I think at the other end, I think our odds for recovery are excellent, because look at, we could just shut off the entire world, right?
Yeah, North
And
America is like uniquely positioned to just keep going on. Canada's got the fertilizer. You guys can make the food and like protect our shores. And what? Unfortunately for Mexico, they'll probably get turned into the new sort of quasi China.
Well, that's been going on that's the reason they put Clinton in. They put Clinton in because Bush couldn't get NAFTA passed, because there was a Democratic House and Congress, and they didn't want to pass NAFTA or the GATT, all these New World Order treaties. The Democrats were a much different party back then. The Democrats were still a working class party back then, or there was still a substantial working class contingent in the Democratic Party. That's all gone now. Now it's just urban liberals, right? That's all the Democratic Party is. Working class. I mean, even even Hispanics are turning against the party now. So that's why they put Clinton in. But all that stuff, I mean, that's been happening to Mexico for a long time. And maybe it will continue to do so, but that's the breaks, I guess. I don't know.
So is another, I mean, I hate to switch gears. This might not be switching gears too much, but I mean, you've written about the collapse of Hollywood too. I mean, and that's one of your books. So does that help you in this thinking? Because I mean, you've seen it happen in Hollywood. We're sort of seeing it happen now. It is a parallel. I mean, it's been a woke collapse, and that's part of the problem with the global thing too. Is it's the clamping down on free speech, the SDGs, the DEI. That's just people are just not having it anymore.
Yeah, it's pissing people off, but that's all that came about because of all the free money. So there was all this free money. So it's just like, well, we got to hire a bunch of people. And they just started hiring all these people for like human resources and all this kind of stuff. I think, and diversity offices and so on. And I think human resources is an abomination. Human resources used to be called personnel. So it used to be about persons, and then it became about resources. You're just a resource. You can be discarded at will. I'll tell you a thing about Hollywood. For the past, well, not for the past because it's been a long time now, but from 1995 to 2020, I was a freelancer for Marvel. And starting around 2008, most of the work I was doing up until 2020 was for the movies, for Marvel Studios. I was creating artwork for it. The division that I worked for doesn't even exist anymore. It's gone. Okay. And my boss is retired. I mean, he's not much older than I am. I think he's like early 60s, and he's living the life of Riley. I mean, he's big into hunting and fishing, and he's living down in Florida, and he looks great. He's like all fit and tanned. He's just living the life. I'm sure they gave him a nice severance package, and now he's down in Palm Beach, just living the life. But the entire division that I worked for 25 years of my life doesn't even exist anymore. They shut it down. Okay. Now there are all these videos that you can watch on YouTube where all these kind of fanboys go into the stores, and none of the Marvel stuff or the Star Wars stuff or any of that stuff sells anymore. And it's been a while. And I don't know if you guys had Toys R Us up there.
Yeah.
But Toys R Us.
It's still open somehow. I don't know. It's been closing for years. It's like Been closing for like 5 fucking years now, but that shit is still there. I'm always like, wow, when you go in there, they don't really have much.
Well, they're gone here. I mean, I think they have some online stuff, but that's might as well just be gone. Toys R Us died because they went all in on that first Force Awakens Star Wars sequel. Problem is that that film did all right. It did pretty well. Kids didn't like the toys because there were, like female leads and so on and stuff. They just didn't like that stuff. I mean, because that stuff is for young boys. So if you're trying to push, the social engineering project, which is all insanity and stupidity anyway, and we're going to get the boys to play with all these girls' toys, these action figures, these sort of transified action figures. Boys they are such creatures of instinct. They're like, no. And there's no reason, you can't like sort of use rhetoric on an 8-year-old boy. He's just like, no, that's stupid. That's got a girl in it. I don't want that. That's just the way it is. I mean, you were a boy. I mean, I raised 2 boys. I mean, I know what they were like. They didn't like any toys that had any type of like medicinal whiff to them. Like they were supposed to be good. They hated all the science toys and all this kind of shit that, aunts would get them, like, oh, this is good for them. This is going to teach them. It's like that stuff. They didn't even break the plastic on that stuff. So that's what killed Star Wars. The thing that has been keeping Disney Studios afloat it did so for about 12 years was Marvel. Marvel was the only franchise that was way in the black, like way in the black. I mean, just licensed to print money. But then they said, oh, I know what we'll do. Let's get woke. Let's make, let's sex change and race change all these characters and do all this kind of stuff. Never mind the fact that they tried that in the comics and it was a spectacular failure. They did it in the movies and they committed suicide. They killed their own brand. And interestingly enough, like the worst expression of this was the Eternals movie. And that was the last thing I worked on. I just, like I said, stopped calling me because there was no work. And they shut the division down because there was no work, because nobody wants the shit anymore. Nobody wants Captain Marvel toys. Resting bitch face toys was that actor. Could they find a more unpleasant actress to play that role? They just completely destroyed their own brand because they were so high in their own supply and so drunk on success that they're like, let's keep rolling. Like they're the guy at the table, the craps table, who doesn't know when to stop throwing the dice and loses his shirt because he can't help himself. And that's what Marvel did. And they're dead now. It's a dead brand. They are losing money hand over fist. Hollywood is losing money hand over fist.
But do they care though? I mean, I feel like
they care. Oh, believe me, they fucking care. Believe me, they care. I'm telling you something. I hear this so much. It's
because I don't think it's about the ratings. It's about the message. They want to push that shit no matter how much it costs. No,
no, because they don't have unlimited supplies of money. They just don't. You're going to see a turnaround because, all right, so there's still all this woke shit in the pipelines, but the way this works is that, I mean, you can have movies made.
It takes a long time. Yeah.
Takes 10 years ago, they were like 10 years ago, the contracts were written up for them and they're obligated to put the stuff out, but it's over, man.
Well, they have canceled some of it, right? I mean, they've already made stuff and they've canceled it. So
yeah, they are trapped. It's the devil in the deep blue sea because they brought in all these angry lesbians, let's just say, and androphobic people. Nothing against lesbians per se, but they brought in hardcore activist feminist types who hate men and want to demean men. And okay, well, Maybe that's not a good idea when you're spending $250 million on a motion picture that needs
when
to
men's
make.
like 80% of your audience. I mean, that one of the ladies recently just said, "Oh, we've got to make men uncomfortable." I like making men uncomfortable. Like, okay, good job. So try to make a movie and make men uncomfortable and see what happens.
Yeah, it's over. It's over. I'm telling you something. A lot of these projects that they have going on now are going to be canceled. Everything is failing left and right. The only thing that Marvel made this past year that did well at all was Guardians of the Galaxy. And that was like the last ones. And the guy who made it went over to DC. So they're screwed. It's over. It's over. And yeah, when the money is flowing and the credit is free, you can be about the message. When it becomes about keeping the lights on, forget it. I mean, Disney stock is in the toilet. There's all this internal fighting. But like I said, they're captive to the culture. They're captive to their people inside who are all activists, who are all woke as hell. But the problem is that they're not talented. And the Deep Blue Sea, that's the devil. The Deep Blue Sea is the mass audience that just is not interested in this stuff. They said, we're going to make this movie for women, this Marvel's movie, right? 80%, I think it was 80% of the audience, even for that movie, was male. Women weren't interested in it. They don't want to see that stuff. They want to see Barbie. They don't want to see these, or rom-coms. I hear they're bringing back the rom-coms, right? It's all engineering. It's all elite people who live in bubbles their entire lives and hang on to these, what are essentially boutique belief systems, political, luxury political beliefs. And they have no sense because they've never wanted for anything in their life. They've never suffered ever in their lives. They've lived lives of just unimaginable privilege. They have no sense of reality.
Can you talk about the sort of getting rid of the good versus evil type thing, the hero's journey, I mean, they're even doing it in Dungeons and Dragons too. Like there's no more, they don't want inherent evil. And that's kind of like, it fits sort of with what's happening, with the globalists, like where you're saying that's the ultimate evil. Well, they don't even want to acknowledge that evil's a thing. I mean, and I think
unless it's white men,
well,
they're okay to be evil.
Yeah.
No, well, yeah, here's the thing. Never mind all the woke stuff. Let's put that aside for a moment. I mean, that is a huge problem. But the other problem is just oversaturation. And how many times can you tell these stories? Batman does not need another story, another film. There's nothing new to be said about Batman. He's been around since the late 30s. There's been a trillion comic book stories written about him. TV shows, cartoons, movies, books. What else can be said about that character? It's like they squeezed all the blood from the stone that they were ever going to get. And
but you can get more out of the mythologies, like the hero's journey. You get more out of that? I mean, isn't that resonates with you?
No, it's been done. I'm telling you, it's over. There's nothing more to be said. It's like, I'm telling you, like 1982, like Blade Runner, Conan. I mean, all these like, oh my God, you couldn't believe it. But it's just like, that's a finite resource. One thing that I wrote about in The Endless American Midnight is I said, myths are not forever.
Yeah.
Myths are not eternal. Okay. And 100 years ago, we had a completely different set of myths in the culture. I mean, that would be like the pulp heroes and the sort of these penny dreadfuls and so on, all these kinds of, as detectives and Westerns predominantly. People don't remember those characters anymore. There were all these huge comic strips that dominated the culture. I mean, we know about things like Peanuts, but before that there would be Blondie and Bringing Up Father and the Cats and Jammer Kids and Moon Mullins and Crazy Cat and Little Nemo. does anybody know anything? Like most of your audience probably doesn't even know what I just said. Like, was he just saying like just weird syllables? Because nobody remembers those characters anymore. Nobody remembers Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers, and nobody remembers the Phantom. Myths die because they speak their piece. Okay, superheroes speak their piece. That mythology spoke its piece. The technology, social media, and all these kind of things. People just aren't interested in that stuff anymore.
So you think it's the whole like platform, the whole genre, the whole medium is gonna disappear? I mean,
no, I don't think the medium's gonna disappear, but I think it's gonna have to be. They're gonna have to find a replacement for the whole tentpole theme park ride type of movie, because what had happened is that cable television, particularly, but also the DVD market, really made sort of the mid-level film unviable. When you just go see a movie about lawyers or something, or a murder mystery or something, you don't see those kind of movies at the cinemas anymore. That because
you're gonna watch that at home.
You're gonna watch it on Netflix or something like that, right? So really, all they had left, because everything has been losing. You wouldn't believe the amount of money that these movies have been losing. I mean, we're talking
hundreds of millions, right?
I heard a number that collectively Hollywood lost $500 billion last year. Okay. $500 billion. That's inconceivable to me. How does that even happen? But I mean, people like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg were talking about this 10, 15 years ago. They were saying, no, it's the end is in sight. The end is in sight for movies, which had been the primary propaganda tool for the Empire and the New World Order, right? Top Gun. I remember one of your guys, Brian Adams, they approached him to do the theme song for the original Top Gun. And he said, I'm not interested in becoming part of the advertising force for the United States military. It's like, respect. And then they got Kenny Loggins, who'll do anything, just for anything for a buck.
I don't know if Brian might not be so respect. I don't know. I think he might have flipped in that regard.
It was probably a calculated move. But I mean, that's kind of that's where the leftists were in those days, like Chris said. Mm-hmm. Man, Chris, this is always fantastic. I can't believe we waited this long to have you on the show. We can't do this again. You're definitely one of the favorite guests for the listeners, one of my favorite guests to listen to. And I feel like we could go on for hours and hours. So let's not wait so long next time. Where can people find all your stuff? Where's the best place to follow you? If you have any social media and the blog, obviously.
Well, I'm Secret Son Speaks at Twitter. secretson.blogspot.com is the main blog, and that will point you to the Patreon. And there's a lot of tons and tons of material on the Patreon now. I do these kind of like 3-4 hour live streams on different topics and so on. So, it's pretty intensive. And then, the latest book is The Spandex Files, which is sort of me saying goodbye to superheroes and comics. And there's a lot. I mean, the first book, Our Gods with Spandex, was sort of about the comics. This book is more about the movies and the superhero culture and how it died or how it was killed. Right. But that's available through Amazon Canada, and so on. So, and then in like I said, in April, there'll be this Synchromystic Handbook, which I'm really excited about.
What are you streaming on when you do those streams? Where is it on? Is it on YouTube or?
Yeah, I do them on YouTube. But they're usually just for the members of the Patreon.
Yeah.
But I do want to start doing more, video material, because I just have so much information, And you know how it is. People's
yeah.
attention spans are just minuscule these days.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to sort of fight through the smog. So I think I need to start doing more bite-sized information.
Yeah.
Because I have a knack for sort of putting a lot into a little, so to speak.
For like a TikTok reel, it's going to be on like a TikTok reel.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
It's hard. It's a lot of work to break all that shit up, though. That's the thing. Especially if you're, by yourself without a team.
Well, I did a video. I think I've only done one short form video. I did a video on West Memphis 3. And the argument that I was making is that those murders were actually druidic human sacrifices.
Wow.
And actually followed the traditional druidic sacrifice model. So whoever did those murders, and I sort of left it open, it's like, well, just find out who was really into the druids, who was reading a lot of books about druids back then, and then you'll find your killers, because there were certain details in the crime scenes that were straight out of a book called Death of a Druid Prince that was released in paperback about a year before the murders.
Is the satanic aspect of it like a little bit of a cover then or something, or like it's all like the part of the satanic panic where anything that looks a little occultish they just automatically go to Satan?
Yeah, well, see that's really that so-called that guy Dale Griffiths who they got to testify, and he didn't know what he was talking about. He was just like throwing up some basically boilerplate satanic panic stuff.
Yeah.
That is just it was so dumb that most reasonable people were like, that was really stupid. It was druidic, and I would say almost orthodox druidic.
Wow.
The time, the place, the manner of the killings, the way the bodies were presented. It was all straight out of this book called Death of a Druid Prince.
Have you ever thought about doing more into that satanic panic part and into that stuff? Or?
Well, I see. Here's the thing. I mean, I get myself into a lot of trouble because that whole idea of satanic panic, I have a lot of trouble with, because what it assumes is that people were reacting completely irrationally, when in fact, Hollywood, starting in the middle 60s, was pumping out satanic movies, hundreds and hundreds of them. And then, the ones we know about, like Rosemary's Baby and Exorcist and The Omen and so on and so forth. Satanism was in books, movies, comic books, music. It was even in porn. If you go back and look at how much material was satanically themed, it's kind of shocking. And the other problem is, because we live in this world where history is constantly being rewritten to suit the needs of the regime, particularly back in the 70s, there was a ton of satanic murders, satanically inspired murders or ritualistic murders. And that stuff has all been swept under the rug. So this whole idea that the satanic panic was just like people just like losing their minds, some sort of moral panic, is completely, to me, it's unfounded, because people had a lot of good reasons to worry about Satanism, because it was being pushed. There were satanic cults that were active, particularly in the 70s, and there were a lot of satanic murders. There was, just a couple examples. There were a satanic cult in Massachusetts in the Bridgewater Triangle that were killing prostitutes and dumping their bodies and presenting them ritually. And then there was a gang in Chicago called the Chicago Ripper Crew that were kidnapping women off the street and killing them in satanic rituals. This is all known. This isn't like fantasy or conspiracy or something. It was all recorded in, confessions and so on, the evidence. So this whole idea that people were just freaking out about Satanism, oh my God, let's just get upset about something. It's to me, it's almost violently ahistorical.
Huh.
Yes, there was a satanic panic, and the media was, believe me, the mass media was feeding into a lot of this stuff, but there was a lot of Satanism and a lot of satanic crime that people were worried about. Adam Walsh, right? America's Most Wanted, that TV show, the guy, John Walsh, whose son was kidnapped and beheaded by a Satanist. Who is friends with, what's his name? The Henry guy, the Henry's Portrait of the Serial Killer guy. I mean, you know who I'm talking about. But there was a lot of satanic crime. And I would like to do a book at some point, sort of puncturing that myth.
Yeah.
And it would probably be better as a video, actually, like a documentary.
Yeah, for sure.
Because without like supporting the actions of people like all these fake ministers like Bob Larson, with his televised exorcisms and stuff, without sort of giving any credence to that nonsense, I think there was, like I said, there was definite reason to be concerned about Satanism back in the 80s. So,
yeah, right on.
I would tend to agree. Chris, always a pleasure. I hope you have a wonderful night and come back anytime. I will see you on the Facebook and on the Twitter.
Rock on, Darren.
All
Rock on, Graham.
Thanks.
Great seeing you guys.
Take care.
And that was a chat with the fabulous Chris Knowles. Man, he could just go and go and go. It's crazy. I don't know how people can hold that much. Like I could go and go and go too, but by the time I get to like 40
it's all
minutes,
speculation, though.
Babbling, it's speculation, and I'm probably like contradicting something I said earlier.
Did you see the ethical skeptic in there when he was talking about the U.S. Navy? He's like, "That's it," and he was like the missile defense thingamajiggy, and Chris was right on about the Navy. So I mean, Chris, the ethical skeptic, like confirming some of the stuff he was talking about. So maybe he should do the geopolitical stuff a little bit more. I didn't expect it to go there, but wow.
I didn't expect the ethical skeptic to watch a show, but appreciate it. I think that's it. Big thanks to Chris for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Listen, guys, I gotta say, we need some support. We need more support. Some of you guys do great. Most of you don't. It's about 1% support. Give or take, could be less. It could be less than 1%. So it'd be nice to get that number up to 2. $1 ain't much to ask for the show if you guys like it. I think a lot of people seem to like it. The downloads, there's lots of people downloading it. There's lots of people commenting. So, if you could just throw $5, $10, $1 a week, or you can't do weekly. You can do monthly though, $1 a month. It's time to support the show, guys. If you're getting some value.
Help us beat the attrition rate. I mean, help us beat the weird algorithm that like drops Stripe and PayPal people away from us. Like, help us beat that. Like,
hit that shit
so
up,
we can maintain the show.
If you're getting some value from the show, it's time to send some value back our way. It's never been more important. Grimerica.ca/support. GrimericaOutlaw.ca if you want to check out our other podcasts. If you support us there, that counts. Adultbrain.ca if you're into the audiobooks. If you support us there, that counts too. So if check those out, let us know what you think. Other than that, we love you guys. Grimerica.ca/chats. No, join that shit. Make Kansas.
We got a little Telegram there. It's kind of like a chat group. I mean, everybody comments on
next to the chats. Now Kansas was happy. Now he's not. But there is a Telegram too. It's like t/me/Grimerica, however that shit works. We love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week.
Teach me all your secrets to get a good handle on a better way to live. How does one get out of bed every day in the throes of the apocalypse? Should I bury my head in the sand or sabotage their evil plan? I feel really trapped, an ant burned by a magnifying glass. It's all a little bit too convenient. All the evidence went up in flames. Phonies, fraudsters, scammers belong in the slammer. My friend, best give up their names. Should I call on militiamen or pass out a petition pen? I feel really trapped, an ant burned by a magnifying glass. I don't know what y'all been told, but I got a soul made out of gold. Sound off, 1, 2, Sound off, 3, 4, cadence count, 1, 2, a 3, 4. Some time ago a crazy dream came to me. I dreamt I was walking into World War III. As prophetic as humidity, as aching bones, as frantic animals. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now she floats it down a river dark. As prophetic as deja vu, as wormwood, as falling stars above. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now she floats it down a river dark. I can't even hear my own thoughts for the life of me over the din of a bruised and broken culture. The media spins and splatters and spins and clatters, and I cringe because it's psychological warfare. Don't you feel yourself getting really mad? How did we let it get this bad? Don't you feel really trapped like a brain in a vat? Trying really hard to close Pandora's box, but sirens are singing me off a cliff. I'm looking to hitchhike to Shangri-La over yonder. Sophia, would you give me a lift? Hopped out of the Hegelian rebellion. Say goodbye to all you Machiavellians. Let evil destroy itself. I'm bound for Shangri-La. Shangri-La. I'll let you be in my dream if I could be in yours. I'll let you be in my dream if I could be in yours. As prophetic as morning doves, as groundhogs, as fallen stars above. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now we're floating it down a river dark. As prophetic as white wolves, as butterflies, as rainbows. Sophia sings it now. We built a plane, now we're taking flight above a river bright. As prophetic as white wolves, as butterflies, as rainbows. Sophia sings it now. We built a plane, now we're taking flight above a river bright. La da da da, la da da, la da, la da da, la da 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 da, la 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 Shangri-La. La 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 Shangri-La.